Ambassador Marcus Webb's boots echoed against the polished obsidian floor as armed guards escorted him into the heart of the Galactic Council's supreme chamber. The structure itself defied human understanding of architecture. Walls curved upward into impossible angles, held together by gravity fields that bent light into prismatic rainbows. Thousands of seats spiraled above him, each occupied by representatives from species humanity had never encountered. The air tasted metallic. Translation implants hummed in Marcus's skull, converting the cacophony of alien languages into comprehensible speech. He had prepared for this moment for months, studying every available record of council proceedings. What he had learned terrified him. Yet no species had ever said no to the council and survived. The High Arbiter descended from its platform, a creature so ancient that its crystalline body had grown translucent with age. It spoke, and every being in the chamber fell silent. Human, you stand before 47 civilizations representing 6,000 inhabited worlds. We have reviewed your species' activities since first contact. The verdict is unanimous. Marcus kept his expression neutral, though his heart hammered against his ribs. He knew what was coming. Humanity must disarm completely. Your weapons platforms will be dismantled. Your military vessels will be scrapped. Your defensive installations will be destroyed. You will accept council observers on every human world. This is not negotiable. The Velcrin representative, a being of flowing mercury that shifted between solid and liquid states, added its voice. Your compliance must be total. Within 30 planetary rotations, all armaments capable of destroying settlements must be surrendered. Failure to comply will result in immediate quarantine. Marcus finally spoke, his voice steady despite the weight of billions depending on him. The Council asks us to make ourselves defenseless. Yet 3 years ago, when the Torvan pirates attacked our colonies, no council ships came to our aid. 15,000 humans died. Where was your protection then? Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Thulian delegate, its insectoid body covered in ceremonial armor, clicked its mandibles sharply. The Torvan operate in ungoverned space. The Council cannot be everywhere. But you can be here, threatening us, Marcus replied, demanding we strip away our only means of protection. The High Arbiter's eyes glowed brighter. Young species always resist. They believe themselves exceptional. They are wrong. The Council has maintained galactic peace for 11,000 years. We know what happens when aggressive species are allowed to develop unchecked. War, destruction, entire sectors reduced to ash. And how many of those wars, Marcus asked quietly, were started by species defending themselves against Council aggression? The chamber erupted. Alien voices shrieked, roared, and whistled in outrage. Guards moved forward, energy weapons humming to life. The High Arbiter raised one crystalline appendage. Silence fell instantly. You dare accuse this Council of aggression? We who have preserved civilization across the galaxy. Marcus took a deliberate step forward, breaking the barrier of light that marked the speaker's boundary. Warning klaxons blared. Every weapon in the chamber trained on him. I accuse you of nothing, he said calmly. I merely observe a pattern. The Council discovers a new species. It studies them. It evaluates their potential threat. If they seem too strong, too independent, too unwilling to submit, the Council manufactures a crisis. Suddenly, these species are deemed dangerous, unstable, in need of supervision. The Velcrin's mercurial form rippled with agitation. Absurd conspiracy theories, typical of primitive minds unable to comprehend the burden of governance. Is it? Marcus gestured toward the assembled delegates. How many species here were allowed to keep their full military capacity? How many joined voluntarily versus under threat of isolation or invasion? No one answered. The High Arbiter leaned forward, its ancient face unreadable. What is your point, human? Do you think your defiance impresses us? Do you believe your words will change 11 millennia of precedent? Marcus met the creature's gaze without flinching. My point is simple. Humanity will not disarm. We will not submit to occupation. We will not surrender our sovereignty. The chamber fell deathly quiet. The Thulian delegate broke the silence. Then you choose quarantine. Your system will be sealed. No ship will enter or leave. Your technology will stagnate. Your people will be forgotten. In a generation, you will be begging for readmission on any terms. Perhaps, Marcus acknowledged. Or perhaps you've misjudged us. The High Arbiter studied him for a long moment. Explain. Humanity has only been in space for 200 years. Yet in that time, we've colonized 17 worlds. We've developed faster-than-light travel that rivals your own. We've survived wars, plagues, and extinction events. We are adaptable. We are resilient. And we learn quickly. The Velcrin laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You think your brief achievements matter? Species have risen and fallen while the Council endured. You are children playing with forces you cannot comprehend. Marcus smiled, and something in that expression made several delegates shift uncomfortably. You're right that we're young, but youth has advantages. We're not bound by tradition. We're not slowed by bureaucracy. And we're not afraid to try new things. He paused. Tell me, when was the last time the Council faced a real challenge? When was the last time you had to actually fight for something? The High Arbiter's glow intensified. You threaten war? I threaten nothing. I simply state facts. You assume we'll crumble under isolation. You assume we need you more than you need us. You assume we're helpless without Council protection. Marcus's voice hardened. You assume wrong. The Thulian delegate's armor plates clacked together rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Your confidence is unearned. Your species controls barely a dozen systems. The Council spans thousands. You have no allies, no trading partners willing to defy our sanctions. You stand alone. Yes, Marcus agreed. We do. Humanity has always stood alone. It's what we're good at. The High Arbiter made a gesture, and holographic displays materialized around the chamber. They showed human worlds, human ships, human installations. A complete intelligence breakdown of Earth's defenses. We know everything about you, the ancient being said. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. You cannot hide from us. You cannot surprise us. Accept our terms, or accept oblivion. Marcus looked at the displays, his face thoughtful. Then he smiled again, wider this time. You've made a mistake. What mistake? The Velcrin demanded. You've shown us that you're afraid. All this posturing, these threats, this desperate need to control us. You're not acting like a confident government. You're acting like something threatened by our existence. The High Arbiter rose to its full height, towering over the chamber. You have 48 hours. Agree to our terms, or face the consequences. This audience is concluded. Marcus bowed, a gesture of pure mockery. 48 hours. You'll have our answer. As he turned to leave, he activated his wrist communicator. One button press. One simple code transmitted through encrypted channels. Protocol Omega.guards escorted him out, but Marcus wasn't thinking about them. He was thinking about what was happening right now. Light years away, in the darkness beyond the councils. Reach, the galaxy was about to. Learn why humanity had survived so long, and why. Threatening them was the worst mistake the Council had ever made. The Council's war room existed in a pocket dimension, accessible only to the highest-ranking members. Admiral Kethis of the Velcrin Fleet Command stood before a three-dimensional tactical display It showed the entire human-controlled region of space. 12 star systems. 43 inhabited worlds and stations. A military force that the Council's analysts had catalogued down to the last supply frigate. High, Arbiter Solemnex materialized beside him, its crystalline form refracting the light from the display into dancing patterns on the walls. The human ambassador was more defiant than anticipated. Solemnex observed. Kethys's mercury body rippled with what might have been amusement. They always are in the beginning. Pride is common among emerging species. It fades quickly once isolation sets in. Nevertheless, I sensed something. A confidence that seemed unwarranted given their position. They are bluffing, Kethys said dismissively. Our intelligence is comprehensive. We have infiltrated their communication networks, mapped their defensive positions, and cataloged their technological capabilities. They have nothing we do not know about. Solemnix moved closer to the display, studying the human worlds. Tell me again about their response to the Torvan raids. Kethys manipulated the controls, bringing up archived footage. A mining station under attack. Torvan warships, brutal and efficient, hammering through civilian shields. Then, something unexpected. Human ships arriving not from the nearby colonies, but from deep space. Ships that moved faster than Council intelligence had predicted. Ships armed with weapons that burned hotter than standard fusion cores. They drove off a Torvan raiding fleet with minimal losses, Kethys admitted. We noted this in our reports. Their tactical adaptation was impressive for a young species. And you concluded what from this? That they are dangerous if left unchecked. Precisely why we must act now, before they develop further. Solemnex was quiet for a moment. Run a projection. What happens if they refuse our ultimatum? The display shifted, showing probability matrices and strategic outcomes. Kethys narrated as the simulation played out. Hour 0. Quarantine begins. We deploy blockade fleets to every jump point leading to human space. 40 Council warships per location. Nothing enters or leaves without our permission. The display showed human systems turning red, cut off from the galactic community. Week 1. Human trade collapses. They lose access to exotic materials necessary for advanced manufacturing. Their economy begins to contract. Month 3. Internal unrest grows as populations realize their isolation is permanent. Calls for new leadership, for someone willing to negotiate with the Council. Year 1. Technological stagnation begins. Without access to Council databases and joint research initiatives, their development slows to a crawl. Year 5. Total capitulation. They accept any terms for readmission. Solemnex watched the simulation with unreadable eyes. And if they attempt to break the blockade by force? Kethys entered new parameters. The display showed human warships engaging Council blockades. The battles were brief and decisive. Human casualties mounted rapidly. Their entire military consists of roughly 800 combat-capable vessels. We can deploy 10,000 without straining our reserves. The mathematics are simple. They cannot win a conventional war. What about unconventional warfare? Such as guerrilla tactics, raids, asymmetric engagement. Kethys considered this. Possible, but ultimately futile. We control all major supply routes. We have sensor networks that can detect ship movements across hundreds of light years. Even if they manage isolated victories, they cannot sustain a long-term campaign. Solemnex turned away from the display. I have governed for 3,000 years, Admiral. I have seen 42 species face the choice humanity now faces. 39 submitted immediately. 3 chose defiance, and 2 collapsed within a decade, exactly as your projections suggest. But the third, Kethys's form stilled. What happened to the third? The quarantine wars, 600 years of conflict. 17 council species rendered extinct. 4,000 worlds depopulated. It took the combined might of the entire council to finally end the threat. The humans are not the Krevnok, Kethis said firmly. That species had controlled 100 systems before we discovered them. They had millennia of military tradition. The humans are nothing like them. Perhaps you are right. Solemnex moved toward the exit portal. But the Krevnok also believed they understood their enemy completely. They had mapped our territories, studied our tactics, analyzed our capabilities. They were very confident, and they lost. Yes, but at such cost that the council nearly collapsed. We still have not fully recovered the sectors that burned in that war. The High Arbiter paused at the threshold. Do not underestimate the humans simply because they are young, Admiral. Youth can mean inexperience, but it can also mean unpredictability. After Solemnix departed, Kethis returned to the display. He pulled up additional intelligence reports, reading through assessments compiled by council observers stationed near human space. One report caught his attention. A junior analyst's note, flagged as speculative and largely dismissed by senior intelligence officers. Anomalous energy signatures detected in the outer reaches of human-controlled space. Signatures do not match known human technology. Insufficient data for conclusive analysis. Recommend further investigation. The report was dated 8 months ago. The recommendation had been declined. Resources were needed elsewhere. Kethis pulled up the coordinates. The signatures had been detected at the very edge of human territory, in a region marked as empty space. No planets, no stations, no strategic value. He ran a query, searching for any follow-up observations. Nothing. The area had not been monitored since. A small discrepancy, easily explained. Probably sensor glitches or natural phenomena. Space was full of strange energy readings that meant nothing. Probably. Kethis dismissed the report and returned to preparing the blockade deployment. 47 hours remained until humanity's deadline expired. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Across the galaxy, in the region where those anomalous readings had been detected, something moved through the darkness. Something massive enough to bend local gravity. Something that did not appear on any council sensors, because council sensors were not designed to detect it. Inside the human command station designated Olympus Base, General Patricia Howe watched her own tactical displays. Unlike the council's confident predictions, her screens showed a very different future. Status on the Reveille network? She asked. Her tactical officer checked his readouts. All stations report ready. We're maintaining communication blackout as ordered. The council thinks we have 12 systems. They have no idea about the other 43. Howe nodded slowly. Humanity's greatest deception had been simplicity itself. Let the council think they knew everything. Let them see 12 colonized systems, each one legitimate and fully documented. Never mention the others, hidden in regions the council considered worthless or inaccessible. And the fleet? Dispersed and ready. 3,000 ships on standby. The council estimates we have 800. Armaments? The new pulse weapons are charged and tested. Singularity mines are deployed at every predicted blockade point. Genesis platforms are in position. Howe allowed herself a thin smile. The council is used to dealing with species that play by established rules. Species that develop technology in predictable patterns. Species that think in terms of centuries and traditions. And we're none of those things, her tactical officer said. No, we're humans. We've been at war with ourselves for 10,000 years. We've perfected the art of deception, misdirection, and surprise. The council is about to learn what that means. An encrypted message appeared on her screen. From Ambassador Webb. One word .execute. Howe took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would define humanity's future among the stars. "Begin Protocol Omega," she ordered. "Let's show the Council why you don't back Earth into a corner." Across human space, hidden fleets began to move. Weapons platforms that had been silent for years suddenly powered up. Ships emerged from stealth fields that the Council did not know humanity possessed. And in the darkness beyond Council space, something vast and ancient began its journey toward the heart of Galactic civilization. The Council's 48. Hours were ticking down. They had no idea what was. Coming. 20-3 hours remained when the Council detected the first anomaly. Commander Threx of the Thulian Border Patrol was reviewing routine sensor logs when his console erupted with warnings. His compound eyes widened as he processed the impossible data streaming across his screens. "Sir," his sensor operator chittered urgently, "I'm reading massive energy spikes along the entire perimeter of human space. 17 different locations, all activating simultaneously." Threx brought up the tactical overlay. Red markers bloomed across the display like a disease spreading through healthy tissue. Classification? Unknown. The signatures don't match anything in our database. They're similar to jump drive activations, but the power levels are 10 times higher than anything we've recorded. Get me fleet command, now. Within minutes, the priority alert reached Admiral Kethis. The Velcrin commander studied the data with growing unease. Whatever the humans were doing, it was big, and it was coordinated. "Deploy reconnaissance drones," he ordered. "I want eyes on every one of those positions." The drones launched, racing toward the nearest anomaly. What they found made no sense. Floating in empty space, where Council charts showed nothing but vacuum, was a structure. Not a station or a ship, but something that combined elements of both. It was massive, easily 5 kilometers across, and covered in what appeared to be weapons emplacements. But the design was wrong. Too angular. Too aggressive. Nothing like the defensive platform's Council intelligence had catalogued. "How did we miss this?" Kethis demanded. His intelligence chief, a being of pure energy contained within a magnetic field, pulsed with embarrassment. "Sir, that region was surveyed 6 months ago. There was nothing there. This structure must have been constructed recently. You cannot build something that size in 6 months. It would require thousands of workers, supply ships, construction vessels. We would have detected the activity. Unless," the intelligence chief said quietly, "it was already built somewhere else and moved into position." Kethis felt something he had not experienced in centuries. A cold tendril of doubt. "Show me all 17 locations." The display updated. 17 massive structures, each positioned at strategic points around human territory. Not inside their space, but just outside it. In perfect positions to interdict any blockade force. They've been planning this, Kethis realized. The entire time they've been negotiating with us, they've been building these. But where? And how did they hide the construction? Before anyone could answer, new alarms shrieked through the command center. "Sir, we're detecting weapons locks. All 17 platforms are targeting our nearest patrol fleets." Kethis's form rippled. "Evasive action. Get our ships out of range." But the platforms fired before the order could be transmitted. Beams of coherent energy, brighter than anything Council weapons produced, lanced across the void. They struck not the ships themselves, but the space around them. Reality twisted, bent, and for a moment the stars seemed to scream. When the distortion cleared, the Council patrol ships were gone, simply erased from existence. That the command center fell silent. "Casualties?" Kethis asked, his voice barely above a whisper. 17 patrol groups. 340 ships. Total casualties estimated at 42,000 personnel. The intelligence chief's containment field flickered with shock. Sir, those weapons. The energy readings. They're using principles we've never encountered. It's not fusion, not antimatter, not zero-point energy. It's something else entirely. High Arbiter Solemnix appeared in the center of the room, its crystalline form crackling with barely contained fury. Explain this catastrophe. Admiral. Kethis pulled himself together, forcing his mercurial form back into a stable shape. The humans were more prepared than we anticipated. They have defensive platforms we knew nothing about, armed with weapons beyond our current understanding. I can see that, Solemnix said coldly. What I want to know is how this happened. How did an entire network of military installations escape our notice? They must have built them in deep space, far from any surveyed routes. Then moved them into position recently, perhaps using some form of stealth technology. Solemnix moved closer to the tactical display, studying the positions of the human platforms. After a moment, its eyes began to glow brighter. This is not a defensive deployment, sir. Look at the positions. They're not arranged to protect human worlds. They're positioned to project force outward. This is an offensive posture. The implications hung in the air like poison gas. Kethis pulled up strategic projections. If they can build 17 platforms of this size and power, how many more might exist that we have not detected? Irrelevant, Solemnix said. We cannot allow this challenge to stand. Mobilize the Second Fleet. I want overwhelming force brought to bear. The Second Fleet is 5,000 warships. Our most powerful force projection capability. Yes, we will surround human space completely. Every approach, every possible escape route. Then we will issue a new ultimatum. Surrender these platforms for immediate destruction, or we begin orbital bombardment of their colonies. Kethis hesitated. Such action has not been necessary in 400 years. The political implications are irrelevant. The humans have fired first. They have killed Council personnel. This is now a military matter, not a diplomatic one. Orders flowed out from the command center. Across Council space, fleets began to mobilize. Ships that had not seen combat in centuries powered up their weapons. Crews that had drilled for conflicts they thought would never come suddenly found, themselves preparing for war, it would take the Second Fleet 3 days to fully assemble and position itself around human territory. 3 days during which the Council could prepare its devastating response. 3 days during which humanity would surely realize the magnitude of their mistake and surrender. That was what the Council believed. They were wrong. In human space. General Howe watched the Council's fleet movements with grim satisfaction. Everything was proceeding exactly as the strategic computers had predicted. The Council was reacting with overwhelming force, committing its resources to a battle space of humanity's choosing. The platforms performed flawlessly, her tactical officer reported. 17 direct hits, 0 misses. Enemy casualties within expected parameters. And our own losses? None. The platforms were evacuated before firing, as planned. They're automated now, running on preset programs. Howe nodded. The platforms were decoys, expensive and impressive decoys, but ultimately disposable. Their purpose was not to win battles, but to shape the Council's response, to make them commit forces to the wrong locations. Status on the Exodus fleet? Completed jump sequence 7 minutes ago. They should be arriving at the Council's primary shipyards within the hour. And the Prometheus initiative? Her officer's face grew solemn. Deployed and waiting. God help us all. Howe understood his concern. The Prometheus initiative was humanity's true weapon, the thing they had been building since first contact with the Council. Not platforms or ships or conventional weapons, something far more dangerous. Open a channel, she ordered. All frequencies, maximum broadcast power. I want every species in Council space to hear this. The communication officers worked quickly. Within moments, they nodded confirmation. Howe took a breath and began to speak, knowing her words would echo across thousands of worlds. This is General Patricia Howe of the Unified Earth Command. 23 hours ago, the Galactic Council demanded humanity's complete surrender. They demanded we disarm ourselves, submit to occupation, and abandon our sovereignty. When our ambassador refused, they threatened us with isolation and destruction. She paused, letting her words sink in across the galaxy. 17 hours ago, Council forces prepared to blockade our worlds. They believed us weak. They believed us unprepared. They were wrong. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not submit. And humanity does not fight fair. To the Council leadership, I say this: you have made a terrible mistake. You have awakened something you do not understand. You have given us no choice but to show you what we truly are. To the citizens of Council species, I say this: your leaders have lied to you. They have told you the Council maintains peace. But peace built on threats and coercion is not peace. It is oppression. What happens next is on them. We offered partnership. They chose war. They will regret it. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings heard humanity's declaration. Some dismissed it as the desperate posturing of a doomed species. Others felt the first stirrings of doubt about the Council they had trusted for millennia. And at the Council's primary military shipyard, at the heart of their industrial complex, proximity alarms began to shriek as something massive emerged from jump space, directly inside their defensive perimeter. The true war was about to begin. The Nexus shipyard had orbited the gas giant Pharillion for 8,000 years. It was the largest military construction facility in Council space, capable of producing 50 warships simultaneously. Its defensive grid could withstand assaults from entire fleets. A garrison of 10,000 soldiers protected its vital systems. It had never fallen to enemy action. That record ended in 14 minutes. The human Exodus fleet materialized inside the shipyard's defensive perimeter, bypassing shields designed to stop external attacks. 300 ships, each one bristling with weapons the Council had never seen before. They fired immediately, targeting not the defensive platforms, but the construction bays themselves. Shipyard Commander Vorax, a veteran of 200 years, watched in horror as his facility tore itself apart. Human weapons punched through meter-thick armor like it was paper. Fusion reactors detonated in chain reactions. Docking pylons snapped and fell into Pharillion's crushing gravity well. "Return fire," he screamed. "All batteries, engage the enemy." The shipyard's defensive turrets swiveled and fired. Energy beams and kinetic rounds filled the space around the human fleet. But the human ships moved like nothing Vorax had ever encountered. They dodged, weaved, and accelerated with impossible agility. Their trajectories defied standard physics. "Sir, we're only achieving a 12% hit rate," his weapons officer reported. "Their evasion systems are too advanced." "Then fire more. Saturate the entire combat space." They tried. For 8 minutes, the shipyard's guns poured destructive force into the void. They managed to destroy 43 human ships. It was not enough. The human fleet completed its attack run and jumped away, vanishing as suddenly as they had appeared. Behind them, they left the Nexus shipyard burning. Half the construction bays were destroyed. The primary reactor was in meltdown. Casualty reports were still coming in, but early estimates suggested over 6,000 dead. The Council's most important military facility had been crippled in less than a quarter hour. Admiral Cathis received the report while en route to the human blockade position. He stared at the damage assessments, his mercury form frozen in disbelief. This is impossible. The Nexus defenses are impenetrable. How did they even know where to strike? His intelligence chief pulled up probability analyses. Sir, they did not just know where to strike. They knew exactly when our defensive rotations would create momentary vulnerabilities. They knew the precise locations of critical systems. This level of intelligence suggests deep penetration of our networks. Are you saying we have a spy? Or multiple spies? Or perhaps they have developed signals intelligence capabilities we never detected. Either way, they know far more about us than we know about them. Solemnix's voice cut through the command channel. Admiral, redirect the Second Fleet immediately. I want the Nexus shipyard secured and reinforced. High Arbiter, that will leave the human blockade undermanned. We will not have sufficient forces to maintain a complete cordon. The blockade is irrelevant if our industrial capacity is destroyed. The humans have shown they can strike anywhere, at any time. We must protect our core infrastructure. Kethis transmitted new orders, and the massive Second Fleet began to alter course. Ships that had been heading toward human space now turned back toward the heart of Council territory, exactly as General Howe had planned. On Earth, in the underground command center beneath Geneva, Howe watched the Council fleet reposition itself. The strategic computer had predicted this response with 93% accuracy. Phase 2 is complete, she announced. The Council has abandoned the blockade strategy. They're moving to defend their territory, which means they're not attacking ours, her second-in-command observed. For now. But they'll adapt quickly. We need to move to Phase 3 before they regain the initiative. General, Phase 3 is extreme. Once we implement it, there's no going back. Howe turned to face him fully. There was no going back the moment the Council issued their ultimatum. They gave us a choice between submission and extinction. We chose a third option, victory, or mutual destruction. The outcome is not guaranteed. Her second-in-command straightened. Then we'd better make sure it's victory. Initiating Phase 3 now. Across human space, encrypted signals reached ships that had been waiting in silent running mode. These were not warships. They were smaller, faster, designed for a very specific purpose. Infiltration. Each one carried a team of human operatives and a payload of advanced technology. Their targets were not military installations, but civilian infrastructure. Communication relays, trading hubs, transport nexuses, the everyday systems that kept Council civilization functioning. The ships slipped through the gaps in Council defenses, made larger by the repositioning of military assets. They reached their destinations and deployed their payloads. Within hours, strange malfunctions began appearing across Council space. Communication networks experienced cascading failures. Trading systems produced erratic results. Navigation beacons transmitted corrupted data. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to create confusion and uncertainty. The Council's civilian population began to panic. On the Thulian homeworld, citizens found themselves unable to access interstellar banking systems. Their life savings, investments, and pension funds simply disappeared from databases. Riots erupted in 3 major cities. On Velkrin station clusters, environmental controls flickered and failed. Emergency systems engaged, but the disruption caused widespread alarm. Questions about Council competence spread through social networks. On 100 other worlds, similar disruptions occurred. Each one small, each one deniable. But together, they created a picture of a Council losing control. High Arbiter Solemnix convened an emergency session of the full Council. Representatives from all 47 member species gathered in the Supreme Chamber. Their voices raised in accusation and fear. The humans are attacking civilian targets, the Thulian delegate chittered angrily. This is a violation of every civilized norm of warfare. They are not attacking, Solemnex corrected. They are sabotaging, and they are doing it in ways that make direct retaliation difficult. How do you bomb an enemy when you cannot prove they fired a shot? The Velcrin representative pulsed with agitation. Our populations are losing faith in our ability to protect them. Social cohesion is deteriorating. If this continues, we will face internal collapse before any military defeat. Then we must strike back decisively, said the delegate from the Corvin hierarchy, a species known for aggressive military doctrine. Identify human population centers and threaten them directly. Force their leadership to cease these attacks or watch their people die. Solemnex considered this. It went against everything the Council claimed to stand for, but desperate times called for harsh measures. Prepare orbital bombardment platforms. Target the 3 largest human colonies. Issue an ultimatum. Cease all hostile actions within 6 hours, or we begin destroying cities. The decision was made. The Council, which had governed through diplomacy and measured force for millennia, was preparing to commit genocide. News of the decision leaked almost immediately. Human intelligence networks, which had proven far more effective than anyone suspected, intercepted the communications within minutes. General Howe received the warning and felt her blood turn cold. This was the moment she had feared and prepared for. The Council was about to cross a line from which there could be no return. She had hoped it would not come to this. She had hoped the Council would negotiate, would recognize that humanity could not be easily defeated. But they had chosen escalation instead. Very well. Humanity would show them the true meaning of escalation. Activate the Prometheus Initiative, she ordered quietly. Her staff went silent. They had all known this moment might come, but facing it was something else entirely. General, her second-in-command said carefully, are you certain? Once Prometheus activates, the entire galaxy will know what we have done. There will be no possibility of peace. The Council is about to murder billions of civilians. They have made their choice. Now we make ours. She entered her authorization code. Around the command center, other senior officers did the same. 7 codes were required to activate Prometheus. All 7 were entered, deep in space, in a region the Council had never surveyed because it appeared to be an empty void. Something stirred. Something that humanity had been building in absolute secrecy for 20 years. Something that represented the culmination of human ingenuity, determination, and willingness to do whatever was necessary to survive. The Council had thought they understood humanity's capabilities. They had studied human technology, human tactics, human psychology. They had missed the one thing that made humanity truly dangerous. Humans did not think in terms of centuries or millennia. They thought in generations. And they were willing to gamble everything on a single throw of the dice if that was what survival required. Admiral Kethis was reviewing bombardment protocols when his sensors detected something impossible. A gravity signature so massive it could only mean one thing. Star was moving, not flickering or pulsing or undergoing some natural stellar process. Actually moving, traveling through space at a measurable velocity, heading directly toward the Council's core systems. Get me every telescope, every sensor, every observation platform, he demanded. I need to know what that is, now. The data came back quickly, and with it, understanding. Not a star. A construct. A machine so vast, it bent space-time around itself. A creation that could only have been built with the resources of an entire civilization, dedicated to a single purpose. Weapon that could destroy not just worlds or fleets, but entire star systems. Humanity's final card. Now revealed for all to see, the galaxy held its breath. The Prometheus array appeared on every sensor screen across the galaxy, simultaneously. There was no hiding something that massive, no concealing a construct that warped the fabric of reality itself. It was a ring, 300 kilometers in diameter, built from materials that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. At its center, a controlled singularity pulsed with barely contained power. Humanity had taken 20 years and the resources of 17 hidden colonies to build it. They had done so in the deepest reaches of unexplored space, where Council scouts never ventured. Now it was moving, accelerating toward the Council's core systems at speeds that should have torn it apart. But it held together, its impossible engineering a testament to human desperation and brilliance. High Arbiter Solemnex stood before the holographic display of the array, its ancient mind struggling to process what it was seeing. "What is that thing?" the Thulian delegate demanded. "A stellar converter," answered the Council's chief scientist, "a being whose species had studied astrophysics for 10,000 years. It manipulates the fundamental forces of a star, accelerating its life cycle. It can turn a stable sun into a supernova in a matter of hours." Silence fell across the Supreme Chamber. "That is a doomsday weapon," the Velcrin representative whispered. "Banned under every treaty, every convention, every principle of civilized warfare." "The humans never signed those treaties," Solemnex said quietly. "We never thought to make them, because we never imagined a species so young could build something like this." Admiral Kethis appeared via hologram. "High Arbiter, we are tracking the array's trajectory. At current velocity, it will reach the Primarch system in 48 hours. The Primarch system, heart of Council government, home to the oldest civilizations, location of the Supreme Chamber itself, and 17 billion citizens. Can we destroy it?" Solemnex asked. "We are trying. I have redirected every available weapons platform. The problem is size. Our targeting systems are designed for ships, not artificial moons. And the array has defensive capabilities we never anticipated." As if to prove his point, tactical displays showed Council warships engaging the array. Missiles and energy beams struck its dark surface and simply vanished, absorbed by whatever impossible materials the humans had used in its construction. When the ships pressed too close, the array's point defense systems activated. Beams of focused gravity shredded attacking vessels like tissue paper. "We have lost 200 ships attempting to slow it down," Kethis reported. "We have not even scratched its armor." A new hologram materialized in the chamber. General Howe, broadcasting from Earth. She looked tired, her uniform rumpled, but her eyes were steady and cold. "Members of the Council," she began, "you are watching the Prometheus array approach your core systems. You are calculating whether you can stop it. Let me save you the effort. You cannot." Outraged voices erupted, but Howe continued speaking over them. 20 years ago, when we first encountered the Council, we began planning for this moment. We knew, based on historical records and behavioral analysis, that the Council would never accept humanity as an equal. Your entire system is built on maintaining power through control of emerging species. You could not let us exist as free and armed peers. So we prepared. We built the array in secret. We developed weapons your science cannot counter. We infiltrated your networks so thoroughly that we know your capabilities better than you do. And we did all of this while maintaining the fiction that we were naive newcomers stumbling through galactic politics." Solemnex stepped forward. "What do you want?" "What I wanted was peace. What I wanted was mutual respect and cooperation. You chose domination instead." Howe's expression hardened. "But I am not calling to gloat. I am calling to offer one final chance at a solution that does not end in apocalypse." "You are threatening to destroy the Primarch system," the Thulian delegate chittered. 17 billion lives. "And you speak of solutions?" "I speak of deterrence," Howe corrected. "The array will not activate unless forced to, but it will remain in Council space, a permanent reminder of what happens when you threaten humanity." "You wanted to make us disarm." Instead, we have built something you cannot defend against. This is madness, the Velcrin representative said. You would hold the entire galaxy hostage? The Council has held thousands of species hostage for millennia, Hao shot back. You call it governance, but it is coercion backed by overwhelming force. We are simply applying the same principle. The difference is we are honest about it. Solemnex studied the human general carefully. Beneath the defiance and the threats, it sensed something else. Exhaustion. Horror at what humanity had been forced to become. This was not a conqueror drunk on power. This was someone who had done terrible things in the name of survival and hated every moment of it. What are your terms? The High Arbiter asked. First, the blockade of human space ends immediately. Second, the Council recognizes humanity's sovereignty over all our claimed territories, including the systems you do not know about. Third, all Council surveillance of human activities ceases. Fourth, humanity gains full membership in the Council with equal voting rights and equal access to all shared resources. And in exchange, we maintain the array in a neutral orbit. We do not activate it. We do not threaten Council worlds. We become partners rather than enemies. You ask us to reward your aggression, the Corvin delegate snarled. I ask you to recognize reality, Hao said. You cannot force us to submit. You cannot destroy us without suffering catastrophic losses. You can continue this war and watch it consume everything you have built. Or you can accept that the galaxy has changed, that humanity has a place in it, and that your only rational choice is cooperation. The Council chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives argued, threatened, and pled. Some called for continued warfare regardless of cost. Others advocated immediate capitulation. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Solemnix raised one crystalline appendage, and silence fell. General Hao, you have demonstrated that humanity is capable of great violence. But violence alone does not make a civilization worthy of respect. Before we decide your fate, answer me one question. Ask, why should we believe you will stop? You have built a weapon of ultimate destruction. You have proven yourselves ruthless and deceptive. Once admitted to the Council, what prevents you from using your newfound position to dominate others as you claim we have done? Hao was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer, more human. Because we know what it costs. We have fought wars among ourselves for 10,000 years. We have built weapons that nearly destroyed our own world. We have stared into the abyss of our own extinction more times than I can count. And we learned something from all that blood and suffering. We learned that peace is not the absence of the capacity for violence. Peace is the choice to not use that capacity, even when you could. You see the array as a threat, and it is. But it is also a promise. A promise that we can protect ourselves, that we do not need to submit to anyone, and that we are strong enough to make our own choices. We did not want this war. We wanted partnership. You forced us to demonstrate our power. Now we have. The question is whether you can accept us as equals, or whether your pride will destroy everything. Solemnex looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. It saw fear in their eyes, yes, but also calculation. They were politicians and leaders. They understood power and how to navigate it. The Council will deliberate, Solemnex announced. General Hao, you will have our answer within 12 hours. The hologram vanished. The chamber immediately erupted into frantic discussion. The debate lasted through the night. Arguments were made, positions staked out, compromises negotiated. When dawn broke over the Primarch system, the Council reconvened. Solemnex addressed the assembly. A vote has been taken. By a margin of 31 to 16, the Council accepts humanity's terms. The blockade will end. Human sovereignty will be recognized. Humanity will be granted full council membership. Relief washed through the chamber, though many representatives looked bitter. However, Solemnex continued, there are conditions. The array must be monitored by a joint Council Human Oversight Committee. Humanity must share the scientific principles behind their new technologies, not to disarm them, but to ensure other species can develop countermeasures. And humanity must accept that their actions have consequences. Trust will not come easily. Respect must be earned over time. General Howe's hologram reappeared. She looked like she had not slept. We accept those conditions. The array will remain where it is, under joint oversight. We will share scientific data on a reciprocal basis. As for trust and respect, you are right. Those things cannot be demanded. They must be built. Then it is done, Solemnex said. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humanity. May your membership be less tumultuous than your arrival. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, beings of 1,000 species tried to process what had just happened. The Council, which had never bent to pressure, had just been forced to accept a new member on that member's terms. The balance of galactic power had shifted. In Geneva. General Howe allowed herself to collapse into her chair. Around her, the command staff erupted into cheers and tears. They had gambled everything, and somehow, impossibly, they had won. But Howe knew this was not truly victory. It was a fragile peace built on fear and mutual assured destruction. The real work would come next, proving that humanity could be more than just dangerous, that they could be trustworthy partners in building a better galaxy. Ambassador Marcus Webb returned to the council chamber weeks later, but this time he walked not as a supplicant, but as an equal. He took his seat among the council representatives and prepared to begin the difficult work of turning enemies into allies. It would not be easy. Centuries of mistrust would not evaporate overnight. But humanity had proven one thing beyond doubt. They belonged among the stars, not as subjects, not as servants, but as sovereign equals who had earned their place through courage, ingenuity, and the terrifying willingness to do whatever survival required. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again, and as the Prometheus array kept its silent vigil over council space, a reminder of what humans could do when pushed too far, a new era began. An era where peace was not granted as a gift from the powerful to the weak, but negotiated between equals who respected each other's strength. An era where humanity would help shape the future of civilizations across the stars. An era born from conflict, but carrying the hope of something better. The story of humanity among the stars had only just begun.